A woman has no legal existence separate from her husband, who is regarded as her head and representative in the social state. This very incapacity was one circumstance which the Supreme Court of Illinois deemed important in rendering a married woman incompetent fully to perform the duties and trusts that belong to the office of an attorney and counselor. It is true that many women are unmarried and not affected by any of the duties, complications, and incapacities arising out of the married state, but these are exceptions to the general rule. The paramount destiny and mission of woman are to fulfill the noble and benign offices of wife and mother. This is the law of the Creator and the rules of civil society.
When I decided to go to law school, I'd never seen a woman lawyer.
I was very lonely on the bench. I had not been well received and warmly welcomed.
And he said, we might be able to find a job for you here as a legal secretary. But that wasn't what I wanted.
I grew up in a time when I didn't know any lawyers, didn't have any mentors or role models in my life. The dream of becoming a lawyer was something that was distant and remote.
I didn't have any female colleagues. I guess I knew about 4 women who were judges.
How do you handle some attorney who comes in and calls you dearie? How do you deal with the fact that you're ignored by your male colleagues?
I think it's a very powerful symbol to walk into a courtroom and see a woman as a judge.
Prior to 1979, there were probably somewhere between 10 and 15 judges in the state of California. And we were pretty much isolated. We felt there was some measure of hostility toward us from fellow judges and from attorneys. And we had quite a few problems adjusting, feeling comfortable in our positions.
I was very lonely on the bench. I had not been well received and warmly welcomed by a lot of my male colleagues. I didn't have someone to talk to on a day-to-day basis, and I didn't have any other women anywhere near.
I had heard that Joan Dempsey Klein and some other judges in California had made this tremendous effort to establish an organization for women judges.
We decided that it might be a good idea to try to reach out to judges across the United States because we felt they were probably experiencing the same problems that we were, and that perhaps getting together we could exchange ideas.
I heard that there was going to be a founding meeting. And I heard this from a judge who I met one time out in Ohio. I have never seen this woman again. But I got the information from her to the extent of I got a phone number of somebody named Joan Klein and a telephone number in California.
We identified enough to send out invitations to come join us. And we did. And we had a little over 100 of us show up at the Westwood Marquis Hotel.
The previous question has been moved. Is there a second? Second. All those in favor of the previous question, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The previous question has been...
We have found within our own ranks and within some segments of the organized bar a stiffening of resistance.
Why do we have a need for specialized groups? And that comes up all the time. Do you think sex discrimination is no longer on the scene? Obviously not. Well, who is addressing that issue? And if we don't speak to those issues that are very close to our hearts, nobody else will. I am delighted at this time to present Governor Jerry Brown.
Thank you very much. The society is still bound by some stereotypes. Those stereotypes are collapsing. This organization, in my judgment, is very timely. It's a part of the future. We're on the verge of new leadership emerging in all these different institutions.
Is there anyone here who needs a robe for our picture? Please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
It was enormously exciting. We had a terrific attendance. We had judges who came from as far as Alaska with newborn babies in baskets because they did not want to miss this opportunity. We had other judges, such as Maddie Bell Davis, who had been on the bench before most of us had probably been born, bless her. And we had the full gamut of judges from all over the country.
For me, it was a particular pleasure because it provided the kinds of role models that I had been lacking in my own professional life. It was just wonderful to see all of the sizes and shapes that judges can come in.
It was like a love fest right off the bat, because we were all so happy to see one another, and a lot of these women were either sitting in a state where they were the only women judge, or they were sitting in a court in a state that maybe had a few women judges, where they were the only women judges in the entire court. So it was nice to look to your left and to your right and see another woman judge for a change. It took off so readily that you could say it was an idea whose time had come. It just grew immediately. And now we have over half of all women sitting on the bench in the United States of America who are members of the organization, including the 2 Supreme Court justices.
When I went to this conference of judges, there was a great big sign posted that said, anyone who wants to serve in the soup kitchen, sign up here. And since many of the other conferences I go to of judges tend to be conferences in which you can sign up for golf or tennis, I was particularly struck and delighted at being at a conference in which people whose first name was Judge thought that they could spend some of their time taking care of people.
One of our members defines it as a place where you don't have to explain. It's a place where you'll come and meet colleagues who are like yourselves, who have the same problems, the same visions, the same hopes, and we share ideas about not just how to do our job better, but how to change the quality of justice in America.
We felt it would be a recognition of the validity of us as women judges to be able to see a woman sitting on the highest court in the land. So that was one of our first priorities.
While there was no woman judge on the Supreme Court, it didn't really strike anybody as odd except other women judges. And women judges at that initial conference in 1979 said, we want to advocate and agitate for a woman on the Supreme Court.
Little did we know then how soon one of our founding members would soon be on that court. That was still to come. At that point, Justice O'Connor, who was a founding member, was still on the Arizona Court of Appeals.
On July 7, 1981, President Ronald Reagan nominated the Honorable Sandra Day O'Connor, and she was confirmed by a vote of 99-0.
The appointment in 1981, after 191 years since our nation's founding, of a woman member of the United States Supreme Court had enormous significance. It opened doors for women at a level and at a rate that had never been done before. It was a particular joy to me to have a second woman member on the Supreme Court.
She was like a big sister to me. She had a very hard role to fill for 12 years when she was the lone woman on this court. For my first 6 years on this court, every term, a lawyer or lawyers responded to my question, "Yes, Justice O'Connor," and then went on with the response. We don't look alike at all. But last year, for the first time, no one called me Justice O'Connor.
The National Association of Women Judges is organized into 14 different districts. This has a wonderful advantage for us in that people from various parts of the country can build close relationships within their own regions or within their own states. Its members are members of the judiciary from all levels in the United States. Everyone from a commissioner to a Supreme Court justice. And one of the wonderful things about it as an organization is that it is a real opportunity for all of us on all levels to get together.
One of the great advantages of a professional organization like ours is that you go to our conference once a year, and there are simply wonderful educational programs that we put on. There are so many new things going on in the world that judges who are so busy in their day-to-day activities find it very difficult, maybe impossible, to self-educate on those subjects and to keep up with them on their own.
Judicial education is simply helping judges achieve learning objectives, whether they're on substantive issues of law, procedural issues, or life issues. It's just giving us skills, tools to do the job that we need to do and to be change agents in the community.
We are interested in the problems of women judges and trying to get more judges on the bench, but we're even more interested, more concerned about the impact that the laws and the legal system has upon women generally in our society, and particularly the underprivileged, those women who can't speak for themselves, be it women in prison, immigrant women, battered women. We feel that we must focus on those problems.